During the father-son very Merry Christmas cruise adventure, which was magical in every way by the way, I knew early on that I wanted to take Dad to Palo for a very special brunch. As soon as I was able to make reservations, I logged into the Disney Cruise Line website and found that they were totally sold out. At first I was so disheartened. I was thinking to myself, I'm never going to get the opportunity to go to Palo with my dad. He wants to try it. But if you've watched the vlog, you already know that we did have the opportunity to go. So in today's video, I'm going to go over those tips and tricks to get those reservations on board if they weren't originally available when you tried to book online. From what I've experienced myself and learned from others, it's actually rather common to log into the Disney Cruise Line website as soon as you're able to start booking those activities, and many of them are filled to capacity, but don't let that get you down. As we experienced firsthand, we were able to go to Palo and even the Disney Junior Character Breakfast, which I would imagine is even more popular, without having a reservation before we stepped on board. The key to making this happen on your adventure is to get on board as early as possible. Departure times on the Disney Cruise Line are set. When they say they're leaving, they are leaving. But the time that you can get on board the ship does vary quite a bit. The reason for that is that guests get off the ship, Disney resets the ship for a new set of guests, and then they allow the new guests on board. So it depends on how long it takes them to reset the ship for the new guests. The earlier your boarding group, the better chance you have of being able to book a last-minute on-board reservation. On the very Merry Christmas cruise, Dad and I were in boarding group 10, and we were actually one of the first in line to get through security and make our way to the boarding desk. Time is now 10:05. We're standing in this line for about 15 minutes until check-in begins, but then we're gonna step on board. The key is to get to the port early. Now, when I say early, I mean like 9, 9:30, 10, you're in great shape. If you get there at 6 in the morning, just know you'll be waiting there for hours before they let you on board. Now, if you have a concierge room, you don't have to worry about getting there too early simply because your number will be called first anyway. You'll get boarding group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Somewhere in there, you'll be some of the first to go on board. After you check in, but before you step on board, be sure to check the navigator that you get. You can see right under Welcome Aboard, Palo Dining Reservations, 12:30 to 3:30 in the Promenade Lounge. That's what it was for our adventure. It could be different for yours, so be sure to check that navigator for the first day adventure. Dad and I were in boarding group 10, which is relatively early. As soon as our number was called, we stepped on board, sat down for lunch, and then I made my way to get those Palo reservations. I'm stepping away from the table for just a moment. I'm actually going to try and make Palo reservations right now, but I'm coming right back. As soon as you make it to the designated location for Palo reservations, make your way to the Palo representative, let them know you'd like dinner or brunch reservations at Palo if possible. They'll ask for your room number, and then you just take a seat and wait to be called. Depending on how many other guests are interested in Palo reservations, you may have a long line or a short line, but they'll call your room number when they're ready. When Dad and I were trying to get Palo reservations, there were a lot of guests in front of us. I took a look at the list. There must have been 20 rooms ahead of our room number, so I thought we wouldn't get it. The representative told me it would take 30 to 45 minutes and said I could sit down and relax in the Promenade Lounge or do something else. I went back to lunch and came back over and over again just to see how far down the list they were. I went back to lunch and then went back to the Promenade Lounge, did that one more time. They told me the number was called. I waited. They called me up. The manager told me they had some availability, and I think 10:30. I said it was perfect, and that was it. We had reservations.
Tomorrow? I can accommodate you tomorrow if you'd like to join us.
Got brunch reservations. Hey. Thank you, got it. It surprised me quite a bit to see how many other guests were able to get reservations for Palo for brunch, but as I was doing more research, I found out that this is actually relatively common and a strategy that the Disney Cruise Line is currently using. If you consider the cruise industry as a whole, it's a totally different experience than something like Walt Disney World, where you know which rides you want to do at which time. Instead, you just kind of go on the cruise and enjoy. I think it's for that reason why Disney leaves several of these reservations open for those last-minute planners. I thought Palo for brunch was the only surprise we had on this adventure, but sure enough, there was also the Disney Junior Character Breakfast. During one of our dinners, the manager overheard us talking about the Disney Character Breakfast and invited us to join them the very next day, so it was really a surprise. It just happened all of a sudden. And that's not all. I've heard from other members of our Disney family who have told me they've made it to the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, Senses Spa and Salon for something special, and even special character meet and greets just by asking at the guest services desk. It just goes to show, if you see something on the Disney cruise that you really want to experience and the reservations were all full by the time you looked, it doesn't hurt to ask. Now, I would love to hear from our Castaway Club members. Have you ever gotten a last-minute reservation for Palo or maybe Remy or something totally different? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being a part of the magic with me. Until next time, have a magical day. Bye.